Mortal Kombat has grown to insane heights within the last 10 years, with the resurgence of the franchise starting from Mortal Kombat 9 back in 2011. Since then, we've seen NetherRealm Studios and WB Games invest in one key thing that has brought in tons of new fans to the franchise: guest characters. Since MK9, characters from other games, horror films, or 80s action stars have made their way into the Mortal Kombat universe. I'm Caboose with the Leaderboard, and today we're breaking down every Mortal Kombat guest character ever. First up is Kratos from the God of War games. Just a few short months before Mortal Kombat 9 was released, a leak had surfaced online that made mention of the fact that Kratos from the God of War games was set to appear in the game as a PlayStation 3 exclusive character. Not long after those leaks had surfaced, a trailer was released online to reveal exactly that. Kratos wasn't the top choice in a competitive setting for MK9, but he was incredibly fun to play as, equipped with his signature Blades of Chaos. Or wait, is it Blades of Athena? What? Blades of Exile? You get the point, his blades, okay? He also had a projectile move utilizing the Bow of Apollo, plenty of other weapons in his arsenal that fans of the God of War franchise would recognize, and even a move that activated a QuickTime event, something we're all too familiar with when it came to those games. There was even an exclusive stage in the game tied to the character called the Chamber of the Flame. The stage is similar to the area from God of War 3 that housed Pandora's box. The explanation for how Kratos is brought into the Mortal Kombat universe is fairly simple, as is most of the explanations provided for each guest character. Essentially, he was ripped through space and time, brought into Outworld after he withdrew himself from the battle between man and the gods, and in order to break the spell that brought him into the world of MK, he needed to defeat Shao Kahn. Once he defeated Shao Kahn, the spell began to reverse itself, and Kratos was approached by the Thunder God Raiden and his brother, the Wind God Fujin. They both bowed to Kratos and thanked him for protecting Earthrealm. Freddy Krueger. This horror icon made his way into Mortal Kombat as a DLC character released a few months after the launch of the game. His design was based on the recent Nightmare on Elm Street reboot, which was released in 2010, where Jackie Earle Haley played Freddy. Thankfully, however, Robert Englund, the original actor who played Freddy Krueger, voiced the character in this game. There was also one key difference in the appearance of Freddy Krueger in MK9, being that he had his iconic bladed glove on both hands. This design choice was most likely made to help the character's gameplay feel more fluid and brutal. Nothing very intimidating about Freddy Krueger just trying to punch you in the face. Plenty of Freddy's moveset involves the character invading the nightmares of their opponents, spawning large blades from the ground, shooting a projectile of his bladed gloves across the screen, and a teleport that can help him either avoid enemy projectiles or close the distance between you and your opponent. It's explained in the game that Freddy Krueger operates in what is known as the Dream Realm. He only makes his way into the real world, or rather the video game world of Mortal Kombat, after challenging Shao Kahn in the Dream Realm for souls that Shao Kahn was stealing from Freddy. Upon the defeat of the evil Emperor of Outworld, Freddy Krueger was at liberty to take the souls he desired. Nightwolf considered him too much of a threat for reality, sending Freddy back to the Dream Realm, which was only really doing more harm than good. Jason Voorhees. Mortal Kombat X is where the concept of guest characters was really kicked into overdrive. The game featured a total of 4 DLC characters from varying worlds outside of MK. Upon the reveal of Combat Pack 1, one of those guests was unveiled to be none other than the machete-wielding murderer, Jason Voorhees. Not much is explained as to how Jason ended up in the MK universe. The game does faithfully adapt the character from his original films, however, explaining that Jason died as a young boy, and after the murder of his mother, he returned to avenge her death. With MKX, new gameplay mechanics were introduced to the game, specifically the variation system. This presented you with 3 different ways to play any given character on the roster. Jason's slasher variation was very combo focused. It's also the only variation of the 3 that incorporated Jason's classic machete into the majority of his moves. Jason's second variation, Unstoppable, made him more of a grappler, even adding an ability that would resurrect Jason after you've lost all your health. Then lastly, there was the Relentless variation, which gave Jason a teleport and the ability to mix up your opponent's button inputs, completely throwing them off. Predator. Alongside the reveal of Jason, the first Combat Pack DLC trailer for Mortal Kombat X unveiled that the Predator from, well, the Predator movies was coming to the game. This alien creature, known for its ability to hunt and kill its prey, was a perfect fit for the world of Mortal Kombat. It's explained that the Predator simply just showed up to this game's version of Earth, or Earthrealm as fans would refer to it, to do what it does best, and that's to hunt. Predator was a strong pick in competitive play. Much like the films, the character had a focus on setups and traps, making it an overwhelming character to be opposing. The first variation, Warrior, was very combo heavy, with a bit of setup sprinkled in. Predator has a self-destruct move in this variation, and a grab move that can be extended at the cost of 1 bar for extra damage and pop-up potential for a combo. Variation 2, the Hunter variation, was also a strong pick if you wanted to perform some high damage combos. Predator comes equipped with the same grapple move in the first variation, but also has a trap that you can set up on the ground. If your opponent walks into the trap, it'll yank them from their feet and hang your opponent upside down, leaving room to open up a combo. The final variation, Hish Q10, gives Predator the iconic Plasma Caster, giving the character several projectile moves to control the space with. There was still a huge damage output with this variation as well. The character in general was almost always able to dish out at least 30% if you got opened up. Next up, we got Leatherface. Soon after the first wave of DLC characters were released, a new version of Mortal Kombat X was revealed, titled MKXL. This was meant to act as a Game of the Year version of MKX and featured a new wave of DLC fighters. Included in that was another horror icon, Leatherface. The character is described as a brawler, with plenty of ranged attacks that help Leatherface control the mid-screen very well. Each variation incorporates his chainsaw quite a bit, the only major differences being in his Butcher variation, giving him a mallet to attack your opponent with, and his Pretty Lady variation that allows you to toss the chainsaw, making it a projectile. The game explains that the chainsaw-wielding cannibal, while wandering around in a forest, walked through a portal that tossed him into the MK universe. Alien, or Xenomorph. The final guest character in Mortal Kombat X created a dream matchup for fans of 80s action horror films with the reveal of the Xenomorph from Alien. This allowed players the opportunity to have an actual Alien versus Predator matchup. It's also worth noting that, for a time, the Alien was considered the strongest character in the game. His gameplay is actually a mixture of moves that would fit the lore of the Alien from the films, as well as abilities that MK fans would recognize to be associated with Baraka. This is because the game introduces the Xenomorph after a Tarkatan, Baraka's race, finds one of the alien's eggs, mentioned to have been lying dormant in Outworld, and is presumably attacked, leading to a Tarkatan-alien hybrid. Alien's acidic variation is pretty straightforward, giving the character the ability to spit acid at your opponent. This variation was the character's strongest. Then there's the Conjurer variation, which gives the Xenomorph the ability to spawn an egg. If your opponent walks within the proximity of it, a facehugger will burst out and attack. Then there's the Tarkatan variation, which closely resembles the moves that Baraka would have. And with all that, we now arrive to Mortal Kombat 11, the latest installment in the franchise. Plenty of DLC packs, including 2 combat packs and a story expansion, were released for Mortal Kombat 11, and you can definitely bet that there were some guest characters included. The first of which being the Terminator. The T-800 made his way into the world of Mortal Kombat as portrayed by the action icon Arnold Schwarzenegger. Unfortunately, Arnold did not lend his voice to the character, just his likeness, so a sound-alike was hired.
You will be terminated.
Many people don't really like the voice actor's impression of Arnold, but I really don't mind it. It's also really cool that through customization, you can either create a Terminator 2 looking T-800 or something that resembles his look in the most recent film, Terminator Dark Fate. The T-800 has a ton of crazy abilities, especially considering you can customize your entire loadout of special moves in Mortal Kombat 11. He's got a sawed-off shotgun for range, some grenades that create potential for setups, and even a revive ability similar to Jason in MKX. If you take out his entire health bar, he'll come back as just an endoskeleton, with limited movement and health, but armor to all attacks, meaning you absorb every hit. It's not very useful, but it looks really cool. The Terminator shows up on Earthrealm by chance after attempting to travel back in time to prevent Judgment Day once again. The Joker.
Flattery will get you nowhere, dearie.
This guest character was pretty much inevitable for Mortal Kombat. We've seen now on multiple occasions the Mortal Kombat and DC Universe crossover, and not to mention one of the last projects worked at Midway by the team that is now NetherRealm Studios was Mortal Kombat vs. DC Universe, which wasn't a great game, but still, the point is we've seen these two franchises have some cross-pollination between one another. Since then, NetherRealm has made 2 fighting games set in the DC Universe, being Injustice Gods Among Us and Injustice 2. Both of these games featured Mortal Kombat characters as DLC fighters, as Scorpion showed up in Injustice Gods Among Us, and Sub-Zero as well as Raiden showed up in Injustice 2. With DC as a brand headed in a more mature direction, it made perfect sense for the Joker to make his debut in the MK universe. Although there's no concrete explanation as to how he shows up in this game, it's hinted at through unique intro dialogue that some characters are well aware of who the Joker is due to the Mortal Kombat and DC crossover, which potentially explains how he found his way back. Thankfully, NetherRealm created a completely brand new character with Joker in MK11 instead of just borrowing moves from his appearances in the Injustice games. Joker's got a cane that you can make look like a crowbar through customization, a jack-in-the-box that explodes, of course, and he even uses hostages he's kidnapped as part of his moveset. So completely crazy, but so perfectly capturing the essence of the Joker. Spawn. This is easily the most requested guest character in the history of NetherRealm Studios fighting games. Since MK9, when people realized there was a chance that characters from outside the world of Mortal Kombat could appear, people have been asking for Spawn to show up in either a future MK game or an Injustice title. Finally, with MK11, Spawn arrived, and I think it was well worth the wait.
So all you devils out there, making false promises and spewing lies, we're coming, and you don't have a chance in hell.
His design is perfect, the customization is awesome, and best of all, the character is voiced by Keith David, who voiced the character in the original HBO animated series. Spawn also maintains the same origin from the comics, being that Al Simmons was resurrected after being murdered by the US soldiers he worked alongside, but his resurrection was through a shady agreement with the demon Malbosia. His resurrection, of course, came at a cost, and Al bonded with the parasite Letha, turning him into Spawn. After beating the character tower for Spawn, you'll find out that he teams up with Sub-Zero and Scorpion to slay demons across all 9 hells, which, if you ask me, is pretty friggin' sweet. Spawn has a series of high damaging abilities in MK11, including his chains, his cloak, and necroplasm, which he uses as a projectile. He can also manipulate his cloak into certain weapons, which can be seen during his throw animation with a sword and an axe. Robocop.
You are under arrest, dirtbag.
Fans were clamoring for more out of MK11 after Spawn, the final DLC character of Combat Pack 1, had released. Not long after the release of Spawn, NetherRealm Studios unveiled a new DLC pack for the game titled Mortal Kombat 11 Aftermath. The DLC came with a story expansion and 3 new playable characters, one of which was another guest, being Robocop. Thankfully, the developers decided to use the classic Peter Weller version of the character and not whatever we got from that reboot, and this time not only did they get the likeness of the actor, they also got Peter Weller to voice the character.
You are coming with me.
MK11 treated Robocop strictly as a keep-away character, using all the weapons available to an upgraded cybernetic officer of the law, which Alex Murphy was transformed into after a gang attempted to murder him. He's got pistols, 50 cal snipers, grenades, spike traps, a riot shield, the list goes on and on. It's very difficult to close the distance against him, but if you get the opportunity to, that's where Robocop exposes quite a bit of weakness. Still, Robocop is a welcome inclusion to the world of Mortal Kombat.
Who are you?
I'm your worst nightmare.
And last but certainly not least is the former Special Forces mercenary, John Rambo. Rambo is the most recent guest character to enter the world of MK, being introduced through Combat Pack 2 for Mortal Kombat 11. Much like in MKX with Alien vs Predator, MK11 created the dream battle between Rambo and the Terminator. Sylvester Stallone lent both his voice and likeness to the character of Rambo for this game, which makes it even more unfortunate that Arnold Schwarzenegger wasn't able to record dialogue for his character, but I digress. The character of Rambo has a very tactical moveset, with special moves and animations that act as callbacks to the films. Rambo has claymores to control the space, a bow and arrow, and even a move where he eats a bug to regain health. not to mention 2 massive LMGs to mow down your opponent. And again, all too similar with a lot of the guest characters that we've seen in Mortal Kombat games, not much is explained about his appearance in this universe, but you can notice through some end screen taunts that a dimensional rift opens to bring him back home. Just another inexplicable portal that probably led Rambo to Earthrealm. And that's it. That's every guest character ever that we've seen throughout all Mortal Kombat games. We hope you all enjoyed the video, and if you did, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the leaderboard for more videos like this one.